Hello and welcome to the ISMG studios here at RSA Conference. I'm Rahul Neel Mani, Vice President Community Engagement and Editorial. And with me today is Alex Hesterberg, who's the CEO of Superna. Alex and I will be talking about data resiliency. Welcome, Alex. How are you doing today?
Doing okay, Rahul. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Wonderful, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. Alex, talk to us about the emerging data technology and threat trends that you have been witnessing.
Sure. So obviously we're all very, very familiar with the importance of data resiliency and security today. We focus on an area that's now called cyberstorage. This cyberstorage concept is an ability to take the common concepts of security, like intrusion detection and being able to see what's being manipulated, and apply it to the data layer itself. And what we're finding is that it's one of those areas of opportunity that combats modern threats around ransomware, exfiltration, and some of the security threats today that normal backup and recovery doesn't necessarily address.
So talk to us about the growing threat landscape for the data in storage and how these threats commonly manifest in the real world.
Yeah, so I think if you look at the standard type of data that tends to be attacked or exfiltrated or encrypted today, a lot of it is what's known as unstructured data, file and object. And this data is actually 90% of the digital data created today. Only 10% is structured and in databases. So it's a huge threat landscape, and it's the number one area where these attacks are taking place. The next thing that's happening is that this data is now becoming richer and richer, meaning all the different trends we see around AI and generative AI, those models are being fed by unstructured data. And the output from AI and Gen AI models is also unstructured. So we have this data set of unstructured data that's becoming more and more important and relevant to AI, and the output of these algorithms is also unstructured. So we have this data set that continues to grow. It is the number one attack vector for cybersecurity threats today. And our approach is to be able to wrap that data layer itself in security so that we can actually let the security teams know what's going on at the data layer.
But this problem or challenge of unstructured data is not going away anytime soon, because the sources from where this data originates are only going to increase.
Yes.
So how will the solutions cover them all?
Yeah, so it's important to take a perspective of the world of backup and recovery exclusively for this is no longer sufficient. There's definitely a place for snapshots, there's definitely a place for backup and recovery, but the data layer itself needs to become offensive to be able to understand when it's under attack. And this becomes increasingly more difficult as the data estate grows. So we have customers that are running petabytes and exabyte scale of data, and they want to have a security solution that understands whenever somebody, either an attack or an internal bad actor or a nation state actor, is accessing that data in a way they shouldn't be, or conducting an attack, that it's immediately detected, immediately stopped, and then all the forensics of that attack are packaged up for the security vendors, and that's where a lot of our investment has been going over the course of the last year, taking what's happening at the data layer and packaging it up for the security teams to be able to take action around kicking a host off a network or quarantining a particular host. It's a way that we're bridging what we tend to refer to as the data to security gap.
Yeah. For a very brief while, you mentioned about cyberstorage. So what's the emerging cyberstorage category? Explain to our viewers a little bit more in detail.
Yeah, it's really kind of exciting. So Gartner is the analyst firm that coined the category. They called it cyberstorage. So why create this category at all? The analysts there that were working with file and object and managing that magic quadrant were noticing trends over the course of the last couple of years. Customers of theirs showing up in the Wall Street Journal and in other publications around having some kind of an attack, some kind of data leakage, some kind of encryption event. And yet they were running all of the common snapshot, backup, intrusion detection, firewall technologies. And so the analysts really looked at this and said, what are we missing? Like, why are you showing up in the Wall Street Journal if you have all of these capabilities? And that's where she started looking for solutions that were essentially applying the concepts of security that we had traditionally relegated to network and applying them to the data layer. and making the data layer itself almost like a fortress. And when I say the data layer, I mean the production data layer. I'm not talking about protecting a copy of something. I'm talking about protecting the production layer. And when you do that, and you do it in the way that Superna does, we're able to see in real time when a threat or an attack is taking place.
Okay.
We're able to see the burrowing event the moment it starts. And we're able to essentially mitigate the event from becoming something that's far more catastrophic to recover from. There are a couple of industry terms that have become kind of commonplace over the last couple of years. Number one, cyber is the new disaster. I know we all were building resiliency in our data centers for the past 25 years, waiting for the meteor to hit the data center and have some sort of a failover event. But the reality is cyber is the new disaster. At Superna, our tagline internally is prevention is the new recovery. So if you can prevent an attack from happening in the first place, you mitigate your need to recover in a really painful way.
You very well said. The cyber is the new disaster. We have been building resilience in our data centers, but cyber resilience is something which is more and more critical for the organizations to address. So my question is that how does Cyberstorage lead to true data resiliency?
Yeah, so I look at it as this area that was just a gap to be covered. We have some incredible partners in our data protection partners, our storage platform partners that can do snapshots and do all sorts of incremental captures of data. These are all still very, very relevant. But if you want to talk about taking the offensive capabilities that you would normally find in network security and applying them to the data layer itself, now what you're doing is you're basically reinforcing that last set of crown jewels, where if everything else were traversed, even by an internal bad actor who has access to everything already, you have some kind of a fortification that allows that data to remain intact. And with that, it becomes part of this real ecosystem of security capability that complements backup, it complements snapshots, it complements intrusion detection and firewall, and it becomes this way that you can make sure data is not going to be impaired, that it can be ready for things like AI and Gen AI models, but it can also be available to do business. And file systems and even object storage now, in some cases, are considered mission critical, and if you can't access your files every day, you can't do your job. So for us, we look at that as a number one area of focus. Bridging the gap between data and security, focusing on data security, bringing the security teams into the data layer, and then making sure that everything is done automatically, so we are reducing the amount of time it takes to respond to an event.
Wonderful. So one last question before I let you go.
Sure.
What is Superna doing uniquely to redefine protection and security of unstructured data that you have been talking about all this while, on-prem and in the hybrid cloud?
So the way that we look at it, and when we first looked at the Cyberstorage set of characteristics, it was a lot of focus on detection. We decided to take it all the way from detection into control and lockout, but also into resiliency and failover. So we've been focusing on, with the biggest storage platforms in the world over the last 10 years, on making sure that failover and resiliency could happen physically and logically. That was part of that original DR story. Well, we're continuing that story into cyber events. So it's not just waiting for the meteor to hit the data center, it's actually being able to fail over and recover in the event of a cybersecurity attack. But then adding the proactive nature of being able to see what's actually happening at the production data layer. Bringing these two things together, you have physical resiliency, logical resiliency, immediate detection of a threat, and the ability to package up everything a security team would need to take action against that actor or that malware or that attack vector. It's a way we kind of see the world heading, and we're excited to be a part of it. And we've got over 3,000 customers worldwide that are investing in us and trusting us, and we're not going to let them down.
And these customers are all world over?
They're all over the world. We're very fortunate to not have any kind of vertical specification. So some of the biggest money center banks, some of the biggest insurance companies, manufacturing, healthcare, SLED, Fed, higher ed. We're privileged to have a number of customers that trust us, and they give us feedback every day on what we could be doing to basically help them continue to close their data to security gap.
Fantastic. So you were listening to Alex Hesterberg, who's the CEO of Superna. I'm Rahul Neel Mani. Thank you for watching us. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Rahul.
For the time.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it.